If you're like me, and you got no life and there's nowhere to go, then tune in to the Animation Truman Show. You'll be glad you did.
And there it is. Good morning, world. What is today? I think it's, wait, yeah, I turned my microphone on. I do want to save that. Made a couple small changes. Okay, let me look at the chat. Max Power, welcome to the stream. Okay, yesterday I was working on a shot for Salt and Light episode 3, and when we left it, it was still pretty much in pencil test mode, and so I figured I'd take a moment to show the final scene and then kind of talk about how I got there, because it did involve a few tricky things with Tahoma. So if somebody's trying to get acquainted with Tahoma 2D, this would probably help a little, you know. So anyway, the shot was this one, so I'll play a little bit of a lead into it. There was a smoldering fire. You couldn't miss it. Right here, blasted kid. I mean, it's possible she came upon the campsite after Luka left. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's watch that one more time, and then again we'll go in and sort of talk about what it took to get it blasted kid. I mean, it's possible she came upon the campsite after Luka left. Okay, so just without explaining it, this little turn of the head, and then this little nod there, and then let's see, that little move there were all accomplished using the plastic tool. So I will show how that was done. So let's go back here. So basically there's really just two things to say about it, and then I guess I can probably get on to the next shot. And that would be, first of all, that well, no, three things. Number one, I'm going to go down into this sub scene. If you don't know what a sub-scene is, long story short, and I have hotkeys set up so I can create them and go into them, but what it means is you've got an animation timeline or X sheet that has multiple levels. And wouldn't it be cool if you could combine all those levels into one and treat them as a single thing? Well, that's been part of OpenTunes and Tahoma 2D from the start. It's called a sub X sheet. In Tahoma, the parlance has changed slightly to be sub-scene, which probably is a better term. So why would you do that? Well, and I'll show the menu. Okay, so the menu option would be to open a sub-scene. Is, to me, I think of it as I go down into the sub-scene and then I come up out of it, but maybe that's just because being a long-time Blender user, I think about the tab key as being something that takes you deeper and deeper into smaller levels of a thing, and then you climb back out of it. It's like a tree, basically, structure. Anyway, so the term collapse takes any number of these columns and combines them into one. So this pink column is actually comprised of 4 columns. The reason you would do that, the biggest reason, is because many times your characters or the relevant objects in your scene don't consist of a single level. So we do have ink and paint here, which does do most of it, but the mouth is on a separate level, the shadows are on a separate level, and then the overall shadow is also on another level. So being able to treat all these as a single thing is quite useful. And by the way, I think I'm gonna sneeze. I'll try to throw off the headphones if it happens. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit yesterday, because we talked about the difference between combining levels using the schematic, which is essentially a node-based view, not unlike what you see. Oh, I don't know, if you're into AI, that's what Comfy UI is. If you're into Blender, that's what the node-based interface is. A schematic gives you a very sensible visual picture of the structure of your scene. which means mainly parenting. In other words, this column, or this thing, whatever it is actually a child of this thing. So if you did something to this thing, a good example would be animating it moving around in space. This layer, or level, or whatever you want to call it, would be carried along with its parent's motion. Okay, I'm sure you guys all understand that. If anybody really doesn't, then you can ask a question, but I'll assume you get it. So we talked yesterday a little bit about the fact that for me, the schematic is kind of about structure, whereas sub-X sheets, which very much can accomplish the same thing, but sub-X sheets are more about compartmentalization. It's about taking the pieces of your scene that really can be dealt with separately and sort of keeping them in their own space where they're not taking up a lot of room. Why would you want to do that? Well, because it's easy to manage 4 or 5 or 6 layers. It's a little harder to manage 27. And I've done it. I can tell you, I've done it where I've had very complex scenes with many, 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 many levels. And what happens in practice, this is why it's a problem. It's very simple. Let me open up the external X sheet. And you can do this like on another screen. I pop this up and I always have it available if I need it. But what happens is if you have more than, I would say, about a half a dozen levels in your scene, most of your time, literally your minutes, actually go to navigating the X sheet. Just moving around, scrolling back and forth. That's where all your time winds up going to. So generally, it's not a good efficient use of your time if there's an organizational way to solve that. So anyway, what I did was I said, okay, these characters, I want to add a little bit of secondary animation to them, and I did that with the plastic tool. And in order to do that, I needed to combine all of this character's many layers, well, actually there's only 4, into a single layer, effectively, which I could then manipulate with the plastic tool. Everybody with me now? Making sense? Okay, if anybody's got a question, you got to speak up and ask it, all right? Because I'm just going to blow through this quick so I can get back to work on my other, well, whatever's next. Okay. Be aware that you will run into strange bugginess associated with, for example, for the shadows, okay, let's put it this way. When I finished working yesterday, I had worked on this shot, the pencil test, for at least a couple hours. When I was offline from live streaming, the ink and paint and color all, well, I mean, I should say the color. Most of the inking I got done when I was live streaming, but basically doing all the color and actually making it start to look kind of cool really went fast. I mean, you're talking about 15 minutes to color the whole thing. It's very quick. Another thing that's quick is when I want to lay a shadow over top of a shot, I tend to use a vector level, and it's pretty much all I use vector levels for. And the only reason I do that is because with the vector level, I can draw a shape, for example, okay, and it's set to auto close, auto group, and auto fill, which means I can draw a shape and immediately the shape is filled. I don't have to do a second step of filling it. Okay, so it's kind of convenient, and so that's what I tend to do when I'm using Tahoma 2D for shadows. The catch is that you'll have, like in this case, what I did was I changed the opacity to allow, obviously, we don't want it to be completely black, right? There are bugs in Tahoma, and I don't know about 1.5. This is 1.4 we're looking at right here, but there are bugs that are such that when you are in a sub-scene and you do a shadow and then you rise up out of the sub-scene, the shadow will either display black, or in this case what we see is that the sub-scene isn't showing until the, well, let me see here. Yeah, let's just say you're gonna have some weirdness with things like disappearing and reappearing and whatnot. I don't want to get into the details. Besides, like, hardly anybody's watching right now, so it's not like anybody really cares. If anybody is using Tahoma and you bump into this, like right here, I get to where it switches to the other character, and he's literally disappeared on the screen. If I go down into the subscene, there he is. Okay, just be aware. Number one, you will get a little bit of that when you're dealing with a combination of subscenes and the plastic tool. You just will. And number two, with the shadows, you can be down in your subscene and your vector-based shadows are semi-transparent, and then you come up out of the subscene and now they're black again, and you cannot get them to not be black. And I guess the reason is I'd have to look at the code, the C++ code of Tahoma, but there's something going on with subscenes where the transparency level at the column level does not propagate up out of the subscene. It's a compositing error, basically. It's hardly the end of the world. It's pretty easy to get around and manage. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm just mentioning it so you're not freaked out when you bump into it, okay? Okay, so number two, very, very quickly. I mean, I touched on the plastic tool yesterday. Here's the deal. I got this character, and he's just kind of talking, and I want to just move his head a little bit. So what I did was I took the sub-X sheet that has all these different layers. I hit the X key. I create a mesh. That's what this green, spider web thing is. After you create a mesh, you build the skeleton, which is what this is, all these little nodes, and then you freaking animate it. It's that simple. As you move these things around, ta-da-da-da-da-na-na-na-na, okay, that's exactly what the plastic tool is for. And so I just explained it with the broadest brush possible, because like I said, I think there's 3 people watching right now, and I'm thinking if anybody wants more detail, you can ask, and I will be happy to explain. Otherwise, I'm just going to give the broad brush. Okay, so now there's one other thing I wanted to show here today. Do I want to discard changes? I guess I actually could save all in this case. Okay, I wanted to show this just because I think it's kind of cool. I wrote this. It's essentially a web application that lets me log in, and I can write let me see here. I need to go up here. Sorry guys, okay. I don't want you guys watching me put in my password. Okay, so bottom line is, you're right. It's kind of like Markdown. Okay, it's kind of like Markdown. So what I'm doing is I'm writing the entire screenplay as just text. So I can write in any text editor, and it's really lightweight, so I can write on the cloud. And then if I begin the line with different keys, like a $sign is a slug line, a slash is a character, parentheticals are parentheticals, an asterisk is a dialogue. So what that does is it creates a situation where I can edit, and then the software processes that and turns it into a properly formatted screenplay, which is additionally useful because it calculates how long this would be, because it's not really paginated, it's not broken into pages. But then I can print it as a PDF, and it calculates pretty accurately how many pages it's going to wind up being. So just thought I'd throw that out there. If anybody really wanted to use this, the other thing it does for me is anywhere there's a slug line, in other words, a new scene has started, it puts a bookmark in over here. So I can jump immediately to the bookmarks and kind of make my way around. So it's not perfect. There are things about it that are still a bit clunky, but basically in terms of being able to write a screenplay from any computer, it runs on my local web server. Like in my office, I have a web server running. So if you really wanted to use this software, I'd be happy to share it. But you would have to be running a web server So, just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay, so again, here's the shot we just did. And that blasted kid. I mean, it's possible she came upon the campsite after Luka left. I had thought about giving him some eye blinks, but honestly, I don't think it's necessary. So anyway, the whole point about the screenplay thing is that I can have it open in another screen. My rig here that you guys can't really see has actually 3 screens. It's the screen here that I'm drawing on. It's the screen that I have Vegas on for my video edit. And then there's a 3rd screen where I sort of manage the live stream. So, nothing going on. Max, you said, how are you? So I'll just say the obvious, which is doing fine, man. Okay, there is a truck out front called Traffic Operations. Huh. Wonder what they're doing. You just never know. Okay, so the thing I want to do is look at the next bit in the script. So I guess for our purposes here, I could just put this on this screen. And so what we just animated was this. That blasted kid. I mean, it's possible she came up on the campsite after Luka left. Okay, so obviously Vespar's like, who the heck is Luka? Okay, so now this is where we want to be a little bit smart. And I'm going to jump up to Vegas, which should put this on the screen. Okay, so now we're far enough into this scene that we probably want to think about leverage. When Vespar, the last time we saw Vespar, this was basically his pose. I'm going to say that, let me see if, yeah, well, okay, so he shows up here too. Yep, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to save a little time here. Very, very simple. Gosh, I could switch to the Vegas screen. It probably would be more useful. Okay, so what I'm saying is this shot, why am I going to like animate another shot of Vespar? If all we're doing is dialogue here, let's just take this shot here, drag it to here. I was going to say reverse it. Actually, the shot that was in there that we just copied and pasted was already reversed. Okay, so all we want is to find a moment where he's talking and could credibly say Luka. Left. Luka. Okay, I like this. Excuse me, I'm sorry for coughing in your ears, people. Here's what I want to do. Honestly, here's what I want to do. This is shot 3-04. Okay, what I actually want to do is I want to get this frame. Where the heck is the lip sync? Hang on, folks. Yep, all I want to do is, well, okay, I mean, honestly, I could reverse this. Actually take what I just did and reverse it. So, he says, the left. Luka, that's all I need. Actually, that's all I need. Now, if I needed to, I could stretch it out. I think I will. Okay, so I just basically saved myself a day by not reanimating this scene for no good reason. So let me look at the chat. Nothing going on. Like nobody's even watching. So okay, Max, if you're still here, then I think you're the only one. So this is one of those days where nobody gives a rip. So that's cool. That means I can just focus on the work. Okay, so Vespar says, Luka. I mean, it's possible. All right, and I'm going to record that. I'm going to just go like this. So I want to get, I need to practice Vespar's voice. Luka. All right, so here we go. Luka. Well, she came upon the campsite after Luka left. Luka. I didn't like that. Not that it matters, because this isn't going to be the final voiceover. Let's do it again. Luka? Luka? Does he say who's Luka? Let me look at the script. I'm going to... Actually, this is so bright in my face when I flip to this. I'm going to go ahead and put this back up on the other screen. Well, you guys can't see it. Yeah, I'm actually going to change that line of dialogue. So he says, who's Luka? Who's Luka? So here we go. Are we still on? Yeah, we're still on the Vegas. Scream. Luka. Who's Luka? Okay, I think I'm going to go with that. Hopefully it doesn't suck too bad.
Luka left.
Luka. Who's Luka? Okay, that will work for now. I just needed something to sort of stage against so I can make sure that the animation's going to play. So let's back up just a little bit.
You couldn't miss it.
And
that blasted kid. I mean,
I like
it's
the pace.
possible she came upon the campsite after Luka left.
Luka. Who's Luka? I do like it. I have to say, I'm really feeling good about the edit on this show because it's you know, it's moving along really good. Not dragging its heels. Okay, so now on the other screen, what's the next thing that happens? Okay, this is Soldier 2. He's saying, the Orphan Highness. Actually, let me put that in there. The Orphan Highness, we chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Okay, sorry. I should probably switch back to this so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so now let me move this way the heck forward. And then look at my script. Okay, here we go. So he said, acting suspicious.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Fair point, I suppose. All right, we're almost done with the dialogue here that I'm adding. And obviously this has to be edited to tighten it up. So Tobias then says,
Highness, you needn't worry. Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
Okay, cool. So now we got the temporary voices in there. And let's go ahead and just tighten them up a bit. Highness, we Luka. The Orphan Highness, Luka. The Orphan Highness, we chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Fair point, I suppose.
Oh, gotta get Tobias's.
Highness, you...
Okay.
Pose.
Highness, you needn't worry. Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
Okay. So that gives us our dialogue that we're going to have to work with and should keep me busy for quite a while, since if this is edited tightly, that's like 18 freaking seconds of show. So let's go back here and switch back to here. And now I'm going to go look at the chat, and there's Darren's quietly lurking. Hey, Darren. Okay, so now the question becomes, how are we going to proceed? Actually, I'm going to say that probably I should stay on Vegas. Okay, so let's just look at this. I'm not trying to be too lazy here, but if the edit is clipping along and really moving well, and the visuals are good, then there is no reason to okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. Then there's no reason to redo the same work twice if I don't have to. That's just, I'm just being pragmatic. So this is a nice shot that could probably be broken up into pieces and made to work. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to open this in the trimmer. Okay? And so that we can just judiciously take pieces of it if we want to, and we can run them in reverse. The shoulder shrug, to reuse that is not a sin, frankly. I'm thinking what I would want to do is probably put this in and reverse it, and then consider what I would want to do. I don't like after he turns his head. But this is quite interesting because this whole shot could probably be reused. I know it sounds terrible. This is really funny because it's the kind of thing that people, when you got some distance from an edit, okay, and you are like you're looking over my shoulder and seeing what I'm doing, to completely rerun the same shot, 11 seconds after you already saw it, seems like a horrible, like, you can't do that. That's crazy. The truth of the matter is, if the edit is moving along and it's all appropriate to the storytelling, you will not notice it. I'm just telling you. So as an example of what that might look like is probably using a great deal of this shot again, because this guy, let me see what he says here. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to do this. I'm saying it's worth trying, because if it works, it will save me. Well, I got 2 seconds of animation done yesterday. So that means if it works and it truly is good quality storytelling, feels good, you just saved yourself potentially between a day and a week of animating, just because you got shots you can reuse or cut into pieces or run in reverse or whatever. Okay? It's kind of one of the nice things about having a dialogue-driven show. I mean, they get even more economies in shows like, Family Guy or whatever, where everybody's in a 3/4 view and, the characters really don't change position that much. So, anyway, I ramble. Let me see what this looks like dialogue-wise.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir. Okay, so what you'd have to do here is end it.
He was acting suspicious.
Okay, so on the word though.
He was acting suspicious, though. He was acting suspicious, though.
So I'm just looking for the end of the
He
voice.
was acting suspicious, though.
Sir. Okay, you probably go 1 or 2 frames this way. Okay, so.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Okay, so now what's interesting about this is, from an editing standpoint, this is stronger. This is actually much stronger than if we saw him start talking. If we saw him when he starts talking, that is not as strong from an editing standpoint. Why? Because what you really want is you want people to start talking before you see them, and then that overlap creates continuity and pulls you through the story. Hope that makes sense. I'm looking at my live stream to see if there's any comments, and there is not. So cool. All right, so he says that. Let me see what we've got here.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Okay. That's funny. It's kind of freakish how often this works. So I don't want the shrug in there, and I'm not sure about the pacing of this, the attitude. It's actually surprisingly close to what would work, but it's not exactly perfect. But remember, we can always go back to the image sequence, because that's all this is an image sequence. We can always go back to the image sequence and then start to put in frames to stretch things out a little bit or whatever. Or we can even just change the speed of it, to tell you the truth, if you really wanted to. So let's just see what we have here.
Luka. Who's Luka? The orphan.
Okay, so now what I want to do here, as long as we're being sort of creative, and by the way, if your favorite editor is something else, I apologize. Vegas being a commercial program, not everybody has Vegas, but I've been using it for 15 years. Probably closer to 20. But it's all the same. I mean, if you were editing in Blender, or if you were editing in DaVinci, it's all the same basic principles. I'm not doing anything particularly special. Okay, so what do we have here? Okay, properties. This resampling needs to be disabled. Okay, cool. It's disabled there. And then we've got him saying his line, and there is some cropping, it appears. So what I'm going to do here is look at... Okay, it looks to me like the cropping on that shot is kind of a holdover from another time that I either used this shot or something of that nature. So what I think I want to do here is do this. I'm going to click this button, which locks what I see on the timeline to what I see here. Otherwise, they operate independently. If I don't do that, I cannot go to the beginning of this clip and know that I'm actually at the beginning of the entire clip. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this forward to here. And then just do a little punch. Okay, and we're probably going to have to massage the timing. Gotta click so it lets go of it. So I want to make that kind of tight. Okay, so here we go. Watch it.
Luka. Who's Luka? The orphan, Highness. We chase.
Okay. So we've got the same situation here, where I guess I should describe what's happening right here is I'm putting things in, I'm changing things, and then I play it, and what happens is it's like it feels good, and then I'll hit something that doesn't feel good. Okay, so it's a very linear creative process. I hope that makes sense. Okay.
So that's what I'm trying to do.
So let's just
She
keep
came
rolling.
upon the campsite after Luka left. Luka. Who's Luka? The orphan, Highness.
Okay, so he is appearing on screen too soon. Let me look at this in isolation.
The orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there.
Okay, yeah, this. I don't need the shrug in there, that's for sure. So let's run with this, and then the question becomes, what can we do with this? Okay, I like this pose, and I want to hold it. Okay, so here's the problem, and it is kind of a big problem, is once you put the cropping in there, there really is not a good way to take like one of the still frames from this shot and copy the cropping perfectly into it. You can do it by copying the numbers. It's sort of laborious. So what I'm thinking is if we get to here, this is going to look just terrible, but what I want to do is just duplicate this like twice so that it just plays along and holds. I'm buying myself the ability to have this as a held shot like that for several frames because I put the move in there first. That move kind of makes it work because things keep moving along. You always want something going on. Otherwise it feels like it really
On the
drags.
campsite after Luka left. Luka. Who's Luka? The orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there
See
was
what I mean? That really worked. Okay. Now whether we can extend this, actually now, this might work. I'm going to keep running this. Is this in, yeah, this is in reverse. Let's just see what happens. It could be cool. You never know.
The orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was at.
Okay. Okay. So now we're going to do a bit of the same kind of thing. Okay, so he turns. Does this? Okay, I see what's going on. So is there one bit of... I really actually think this is probably going to work. I'm going to put this here, close this up, and just see if we have a weird, strange transition here.
There was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious.
Okay. It's close.
Chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting
Okay. Yeah, so obviously, let me, by the way, change this. Make sure that's not sampling. What I really want to do...
There was no sign of the princess.
He was acting.
Okay. Once he says princess, that's really what I want there. Let me look at this, and then this. So it's really this frame right here is what I want. This is not cropped. So that means I can go into 3-05C, find that frame right there, and just stretch it right through to here. Make sense, guys? Okay, quick check on the chat. Nothing. Cool. Okay, so in my, I'm not going to put that there. On my other screen, I'm going to go to my scenes. I'm actually going to my subfolder episode 3. I'm going to 03-05C, and darn it, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done, I should have used my my file viewer because it gives me the thumbnails. So, forgive me, friends. I'm going to go to my favorites, which is episode 3, 03-05C, and I'm looking for, okay, so I guess I could show this. I'm just looking for this one frame. There it is. So I'm going to put this right here, move this back off to the other screen, smack that down to there. Okay.
Came upon the campsite after Luka left. Luka? Who's Luka? The orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
It's perfect.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Fair point.
Okay, so I'm really not joking. That bit right there that I just did is 16 seconds of show. I just bought myself a week on the production timeline of this episode, and that's no exaggeration. So there it is. Hey, Chizyapo. I hope I'm saying that right.
Chizyapo Chipanda.
Okay, so, and it's quite a contrast, isn't it, to notice that this right here took all day yesterday. And by the way, it is 6 seconds. I was thinking it was like 2 seconds of show. So, but then I got all of this out of this, which is amazing. You know, that's crazy. So maybe I didn't save myself a week. I definitely saved myself a day. Okay, I'm just gonna.
I suppose we'll
watch
resume the
this
search in the morning.
Morning? Are you trying to help her escape?
She's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
Highness, where? What campsite?
There was a smoldering fire. You couldn't miss it.
And that blasted kid.
I mean, it's possible she came upon the campsite after Luka left. Luka? Who's Luka? The orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious.
Okay,
though.
so there is one thing I'm noticing here. There's a color corrector on this shot that is absent on this shot. Now, the fact of the matter is it would be better. I tell you the truth, I'm going to get rid of the color corrector. You guys can't see this, but I'm taking the color corrector off because it would make more sense, frankly. I better show this. This is going to be a little complicated, but this is kind of important to show. Okay, so we basically have a color correction problem where this was corrected in the way that I liked, but because I was reusing the clip and dragging it back into the shot, these later versions of it don't have the color correction. Well, I don't really want to even use a color corrector unless there's a very good reason to. Okay? That reason comes up a lot, frankly. But what would be better would be to have the correction baked into the shot and know that it's going to work. Because then each of the individual frames have the color correct, literally. And that means if I reuse the shot, I don't have to concern myself with color correction. Here it is also corrected. Here it isn't. So the difference is that with Some of these, I cut this and copied it, which would preserve the color correction. You see that little icon is green? I'm sorry, poof. You can see that little icon is green. But if I open it in the trimmer and then drag it back down, the color corrector is not baked in. So what I'm thinking is this. Why don't we take this image sequence from 03-05C, which was done in Tahoma. Let's take that image sequence, bring it into Krita, do the appropriate color correction there, and just re-render the scene. When I bring the okay, so this is an important thing to note about animation workflow. Once I bring those frames into Krita, they are preserved, they're stored in the Krita file, which means that the files on disk don't matter anymore, which means I can color correct it in Krita and re-render over top of it. There's one danger though, and the danger is if for any reason I go back to Tahoma and change this scene and re-render it, then I would have no choice at that point to go back and redo the process in Krita. Okay. I've done this enough to kind of know when I'm going to bump into that danger and when I'm not. The probably better choice would be to just drag all of these clips into its own track and then do the color correction at the track level. Then any clips that are brought into that track would be thusly color corrected. Problem there, and believe me, everything about animation is a series of compromises. The problem there is now you're dealing with a Vegas timeline that instead of having maybe 2 rows of video and then sound effects, dialogue, and music, now you're dealing with a shot or a scene, a timeline that may have, you know, over a dozen or 2 tracks, and it gets pretty cumbersome pretty quick. Making sense, friends? So these are things you just have to decide. In my case, I'm going to look at this. I think I wish there might be a better way. I just thought of something. Okay, let me go over here. Okay, we're going to try something here. I don't know if this is going to work. Okay, this color correction. Okay, I'm going to save this color correction, and this is going to be, I'm just going to call this SNL 03 and I'm just going to put 15 seconds. So that's just so I remember what this preset was derived from. Okay, having done that, I can now delete that color corrector off of, okay, that just deleted the preset, not the color corrector. Okay, cool. So I want to delete that plugin. Okay, so now I've got all these shots and none of them are color corrected. Okay, so now my question is this. Vegas has a facility to turn a batch into a single create subclip. Will this work? I don't know. Nope, it didn't work. Creating a subclip is really only for creating, well, literally a subclip. Isn't there a way to group these? You can group them. Okay, let's create a group. Okay, so now they move as a group. I don't think there's a way to, yeah, it's not going to work. You cannot, yeah, I'm going to clear that. So that's just one of those things that different softwares have different strengths and weaknesses. And basically what I'm saying is that in Vegas, you don't have a good way to take a group of clips, make them a single unit, kind of like what you do in Tahoma with the subsheet, actually. The same idea. And add color correction to them, you know, as, you know, a single unit. Truthfully, I'm being a little stupid here because the best solution here is going to be to actually just open this back up into Home and do the color correction there. So that's what I'm going to do. I know some of you you're screaming at your screen going, Dave, why don't you just do the obvious and add the color correction into Homa? Yeah. Because I'm not that bright, people. I'm not that bright. Okay, so earlier when I was working with Tahoma, I did briefly... Yeah, I was messing around demonstrating things, and then I did save my work. So I have to take a calculated risk now and just render this. Why? Because I need to find out if what I did in Vegas is broken. If it is, that would be unfortunate, but sometimes stupid stuff like that happens. So I need to watch this again. If everything looks good, then all I need to do is add the color correction into Home and re-render the darn thing, and I'm done.
And that blasted kid. I mean, it's possible she came upon the campsite after Luka left.
Luka? Who's Luka?
The orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
For the record,
fair point, I suppose.
The turn here is not necessary. That turn right there probably needs to be eliminated. This shot right here needs to be modified so there's no turn. It's too much. That's where we're getting into the realm of it's you can repeat something once. If you repeat it twice in a small space, it does start to become a little onerous, let's say. So I'm just making a note of that. All right, so what are we going to do here? Well, golly, guys, frankly, let me stop and think about this for a second. I mean, the obvious thing to do would be go into the schematic and use the effects schematic. I guess I could do that. Okay, I'm sorry. What I was wondering about was isolating things so that I'm only adding the color correction to the layers that I want to. This layer, I kind of don't because it's a bit dark, but I tell you, and this is a kludge for sure, but what I could do is potentially compensate by lightening this layer so that I can then darken all the rest. Okay, hope that's making sense, friends. Okay, so what I'm talking about, first of all, let's turn this on so that we're seeing what it looks like rendered, and then what I'm wanting to do is probably just do a color curves. I tend to be a curves kind of guy. Boom boom. Okay, so here's the curve. And what I wanted to do, okay, I don't want to do that. That is obnoxious. What do I do to get rid of that node? I hope, okay, is Darren here? How do I get rid of this node? Okay, yeah, I know what you're saying. You're saying, okay, Dave, all you got to do is stretch these out to make that a nice smooth gradation. I mean, what are you complaining about? Nothing. I'm just saying that I really would like to know that there is a way to delete that point. So I hit delete. Well, okay, it's the freaking delete key, Dave. And from the peanut gallery, everybody's saying, okay, Dave, you're actually that stupid? Yes, yes, yes. I am actually that stupid. Okay, so as you will notice, if we when we do a scooping sort of color correction, it tends to crank up the saturation a bit. So I'm trying to sort of emphasize this brightness in the background. So what channels do we have here? Okay, we do not have a saturation. We don't have a saturation possibility like we do in Krita. And this is RGBA. I wonder if that's wrong. Let me... Hey, Darren, if you're around, do you know, is there a way to do, how do you, like, do a quick reset on this? Like, how do you instantly set this back to whatever the default is, or is that not possible? Maybe if I grab that. Okay, that seems to be it. Yeah, grab the node and just hit delete as well. Okay, all right, I can live with that. All right, so what I'm trying to do here is, okay, that's not what I want to do. Yeah, that's gonna be powerful. More powerful than I prefer. Okay. And then, of course, just for those who are keeping score, that's actually looking about right. You can dial in the strength of it here, which means once you have the basic idea of what you're after, you can fine-tune it with this adjustment. But that looks pretty good to me. So let's run with that for the moment. In fact, let's just go ahead and re-render the darn thing and see what it's looking like in the show. Okay, thanks, Darren. I know it's like stupid that I'm not noticing. You know, just use the delete key there, Dave.
Yeah, it's possible she came upon.
Okay, so I'm kind of liking this.
That blasted kid.
Actually, I think I nailed it by
it's
accident.
Possible she came upon the
The only caveat, because right now you've got this shot that was done a zillion years ago, and this right here that's actually matching really nicely. There's one problem, and it's that this guy's skin is way too saturated. So by some amazing coincidence, I actually got that right on the first try. And now what we're going to do is go into this sub X sheet and go to this color right here. And the saturation level, it's right now it's 18. I'm just going to put this at, I'm going to really crank it down a lot, actually. Let's put it down to 12. So for me, I have a hotkey, Control up arrow, moves me up out of the sub X sheet into the main timeline. And then the other thing I would like to do is probably jack up the contrast on the background image, because depending on the, basically you can see the foliage on some screens but not all, and that's dangerous behavior because it means that you know, Murphy's Law says it's going to go out on a major platform and there will literally be no background in the shot. It'll just look black. You know, this stuff happens all the time, so you got to be a little careful. Okay, so here is the touch-up for the background. Let's see what we can do, friends. And I'm basically saying, let's just jack it up a lot. Okay, cool. That's actually more consistent with what was in the earlier Tobias scene. So I'm going to just kind of split the difference and go with something like that. So I think we're probably done with the sequence that I've been working on, other than going in and you know, going on to the next shot. But let's see what we have. So miss it.
And that blasted kid.
Oh, that looks awesome.
I mean, it's possible.
It's a
she came
little
upon
bit
the
bright. Okay, it's a little bright, but man, is it close. I'm actually, it's not very often I sort of, you know, wax enthusiastic here and kind of go crazy on you, but I gotta say, I'm liking what I'm seeing. Which is really weird, because what it means is, what appears to be the case anyway, is that in the time I've been off from animating, I've improved. Miss it.
Okay, and that blasted
yeah,
kid.
it matches perfect.
I mean, it's possible she came upon the campsite after Luka left. Luka? Who's Luka? The orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious.
So now we have to correct this. That I definitely do not want in there. So let's split this. Okay, I believe I need to switch screens. Yeah. Okay, so I need to split this. Split that. And I know it's crazy to think that the dialogue would still work, but I'm pretty sure it will. Okay, so this guy is just his head. Okay, I'm going to try the most obvious thing just because it's so lazy and ridiculous that it might just work. Which is that. Remember, we're doing anime lip sync, okay? Which means all lip sync is the same phoneme, so you can really get away with murder on how these things get rearranged.
Chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious.
Okay,
though.
not bad.
Sir,
Not bad.
it's Luka. Princess.
He was acting.
Sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious.
Okay, that drop seems abrupt. What is this? Okay, so we've got. I'm losing my orientation here, so I have to play it back a few times here.
Campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious.
Right here.
Sign of the princess.
He was acting.
It seems like this should not be in here. Why would turning off the dummy track? Oh, I see why. Okay, of course. What I'm going to do is extend this back and hope for the best.
There was no sign of the princess.
He was acting.
Okay, so I'm scrolling this shot. Oh, I see the problem. Okay, I'm an idiot. This is a still frame. This is a single frame. Okay, so this... Okay, let me just see how this plays.
Campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious.
Okie dokie. So we're in the same boat we were before. This shot, or this clip... That's interesting. I see what happened here. By some freakish coincidence, this shot is the sub clip that I made accidentally earlier, and it actually will work. If I can... There, I got to get it to where it stops.
Campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious.
Okay, obviously that's moving a little
We
too
chased
fast.
him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious.
Way too much mouth movement. Okay. So forgive me guys for looking confused, but it's because I am confused. Okay, so what I need is that one frame again. I think that when I did it before, I didn't actually have the correct frame, because here his head is not tilted, and I need the one, there it is, I think that's it. I need the one where his mouth is closed but his head is tilted. So boom. Trust me folks, it's still faster than reanimating everything from scratch.
There was no sign of the princess.
He was
Okay,
acting.
let's give that a try.
We chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting.
Alright, so we just need this to be
There's
stretched
no
out.
sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Okay. Now, the question becomes, what about this dude? He says fair point. There it is. There it is. That's it. Okay. So this shot is going to be reversed. Okay, so this is cool because we actually have a little opportunity for a gag here. I think if this guy was kind of glaring for half a sec before he starts talking, it would be cool. So I'm going to put this here, and it's probably not long enough.
Suspicious.
When does he ever not act suspicious?
Fair point, I suppose.
That's awesome.
Fair point, I suppose.
Okay, so now we have to do the same thing. I just have to go in and grab a couple frames. We know, where the heck is it? He looks like he's sulking. Okay, so this I'm going to say let's take these three. We'll drag these in. Okay, I have a suspicion of what will work here. Okay. All right, and I'm going to go hit that to get that stuff out of the way, and then what we need to do is reverse these. Now the timing is going to be completely wrong here. It's way too long. But let me just check that this... Okay, so this one's not needed. Well, wait, he says, I suppose.
Act suspicious. Fair point, I suppose.
I'm going to go with that. I mean, if we just jump to Tobias after he starts speaking, I am liking it. Okay. No comments, just viewers, so that's cool. Is this the same shot as this? Okay, so now if we really wanted to animate this, give it a little life, what we do is pop that in there and then that. Let's see what happens.
When does he
I want to make sure I'm on the right screen. I am. Okay, cool.
ever not act suspicious? Fair point, I suppose.
Highness, you needn't...
Yeah, that's stupid. That looks stupid. That doesn't help.
Fair point, I suppose.
Highness...
Okay, so there is a bit of an issue on the timing here.
Act suspicious. Fair point.
I'm going to take this and move it about 3 frames this way. And then this... I really need, I think, this shot right here. I need another instance of this right here.
Does he ever not act suspicious? Fair point, I suppose.
Perfect.
Highness, you need...
Perfect. Okay, cool. So now we've got a little glitch here where this needs to be edited cleanly.
Suspicious. Fair point, I suppose.
Highness...
Okay, I don't like the way his head jerks back up. So I need the other image. That's the wrong one. I'm on the other screen grabbing it. And the dyslexia thing means that I'm going to probably grab the wrong one. But I think it's this one.
I suppose.
Yep,
Highness...
there we go. Cool. Groovy, groovy, groovy. Okay, so that's gone. So Highness... Now, I love the timing of this. I love the...
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Okay, so now there's one bit here, too, that I want to check on the timing.
Acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious? Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Fair point.
I mean, I guess we can go with it. from this.
Highness, you needn't worry.
Okay, so now, let's go back to Tobias. Let's save our work, by the way. On every level, let's go to every possible program in sight and save our work. Otherwise, I'm going to be crying like a baby later when I have a crash. Okay, Chizyapo says, I was going to suggest he look up when they call him, but I'm sure you're avoiding animating more stuff. I was going to suggest he looks up when they call him. When I probably should know this, my friend, but when who calls who? I have literally no idea what you're talking about. So if you could please elucidate that, that would be very cool and helpful.
That blasted kid.
Okay, so now I'm going to switch screens again. Poof. Okay, yeah, because I have no idea what you're referring to there. He looks up when they call him. Call who? Who's being called?
Miss it?
And that blasted kid.
I mean, it's possible she came upon the campsite after Luka left.
Luka.
Who's Luka? The orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Fair point, I suppose.
Highness...
Oh, on the Highness no need to worry line? Oh, okay.
Suppose.
Highness, you need...
Who look up, though? You mean, Tobias? I mean, that's probably not a horrible idea. Let me scroll through here and see what I've got to work with. Because again, you know, you're correct. If I can avoid animating, I will. But it's not exactly critical. And by the way, I want to note that this shot, I don't know if I'm buying the level of blue baked into this shot. I'm going to turn, you guys can't see what I'm doing right now, I know, but I'm going to turn a couple color correctors off. Yeah, I think that, even though, okay, so in other words, the blue there's a blue cast here. That's a holdover from the last episode's ending. I think that this close-up provides us a transition that sort of hides the slight change in color. And I can always you know, mute that blue cast a bit. So I'm not going to really worry about it today. And I'm not going to kill the color correctors. I'm just going to turn them off. They're still there. I could always turn them back on. Okay, so now what we're looking for is what we've got for Tobias. Right there, that's... I don't even know if we have any shots of him talking. Nope, we don't. What we do have, actually come to think of it, is we've got him talking here. And it's a little intense. It says, Highness, the men need rest. Okay, so let me just pull this over here for kicks and giggles, even though it probably won't work. Yes, and I am switching. Okay, so this shot here, which is actually from an earlier iteration of the script. Okay, so I don't know if this line is actually going to be in the show.
The men need rest. Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
Okay, so what I've done is I took this clip and we're going to get rid of the cropping. So let's get rid of these dramatic... Let's just get rid of these dramatic camera moves. And also, while I'm at it, let's make sure that we've got the full extent of this shot. Okay, so this is what we have with Tobias at the moment. We haven't seen him in at least 30 seconds. So if there was some repeat, you would never notice it in a million years, as long as the storytelling is flowing okay. So his line is,
Highness, you needn't worry. Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
oh, okay, I'm an idiot. The men need rest might still be needed, but...
Tianara cannot get far.
Okay, so we get rid of this. That's not going to be needed anymore. And this is, in fact, exactly the dialogue that we need. So... let's just pop it in there and see how the timing is.
Highness, you needn't worry. Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
I don't really like his attitude. I mean, I'm thinking it'd be really easy to go into the Krita file and just change his attitude, change his eyebrows, basically. So I may do that. Not sure yet. I like that the best. If this was reversed, I think it might feel pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, so I'm looking for the lineup on the term at night.
Get far in the forest at night.
Okay, right there. So it would be to about there.
In the forest at night.
Perfect. Okay, so now I don't need that expression that we just saw. Okay, let's just see what happens, I suppose.
Highness, you needn't worry. Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so this requires some rearranging.
You needn't worry.
Boom. Let's just chop it there. Let's just be aggressive with this thing. Let's just do it. Okay, so then his mouth's still moving, but then it stops there. So we split that, move that, take this over there a little bit to get it out of the way. We need a pause There's the pause. If you had to, you could actually time stretch it, because essentially this is a static frame. That means you would never notice that it has been time stretched.
Needn't worry. Tianara cannot...
Okay, right there. And here, I'm thinking, let's get rid of that. I'm thinking this is actually a combination of this and this together, so that the eyebrows actually come down halfway through.
Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
Okay, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. I'm going to say take one frame off here. I'm sorry, you want to... We're just massaging this.
Tianara cannot get far.
Okay, right there, he's needed to really start speaking a little sooner. So we'll put that there and see where it,
Tianara cannot get...
see where it falls apart is what we're trying to do here.
Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
Okay, and we'll try that. Just see what
Get
happens.
far in the forest at night.
That's almost perfect. I'd like to see the eyebrows come up a little sooner, so for that reason, we're going to do that.
Cannot get far in the forest at night.
And I'm going to move it one more frame back this way, and I think we're done with that shot. Okay, and there's where his mouth opens again, so... Alright, checking comments. Nothing new in the comments. So, how are we doing here, folks? Let's have a look.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious? Fair point, I suppose.
Highness, you needn't worry. Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
Okay, so we've covered a whale of a lot of ground, and I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup on my timeline here. I don't need those markers in there anymore. And let's see how the episode begins. Da-da-da-da, dramatic music. I wonder if I have any music in there, actually. I probably do. From way back in the day, when I was starting to work on this episode. Boom and boom. I'm just curious. Just curious what I've got here, friends. Just curious to see. Yep, there's some sound in there. Cool.
She was here.
Not a sign of Her Highness. I suppose we'll resume the search in the morning.
Boy, it sure goes quiet when the
Morning?
ambience
Are you
disappears.
trying to help her escape?
She's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and
She's
correct
here
that
somewhere.
right now,
I
just
found-
because. Why not? Okay, so.
She's here
Okay, so.
So now I've got to get into Vespar's voice. She's here somewhere. I found this.
What was the line? I got to get the line. Sorry, guys. I know. That's like crazy. How can you forget the line that
I
quickly?
found this near her
I
campsite.
found this near her campsite. Okay.
She's here somewhere.
I found this near her campsite.
She's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite. She's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
Highness, where?
That's
what campsite?
slight
There
improvement.
was a smoldering fire. You couldn't miss it.
It's just this is just placeholder. This will all get
Plastic kid.
recorded properly in the
I
studio
mean,
later.
it's possible she came upon the campsite after Luka left.
Luka. Who's Luka?
The orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Fair point, I suppose.
Highness, you needn't worry. Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
Okay, right? We're doing good. We're in a good place. Because remember, we've also got all this, some of which needs to be punched up, but basically this was all animated earlier as well. There's quite a lot that's already done. But I'm wanting to make it awesome, so here we go. Okay, can you lift his hand up with the medallion when he says this? Yep, I'm sure we can. Let me look at that. Can you lift his hand up with the medallion? And I'm going to look real quick at what screen I'm on. Okay. I guess we should stay in Vegas. with the medallion when he says this. Okay, I see what you're saying. Now the question would be, the answer is maybe. I don't know yet. Okay, so there's the word this.
She's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
Okay, right. Okay, let me look at this. I got to think about this carefully. Okay, so we say this near campsite. So we would have to, yep, we could do it this way. First thing we would do is wait for an empty or blank mouth. Okay. Then we would move this back here.
It's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
Okay.
Where I found this near.
Alright, so that would be here. This would be here. And so then it becomes a question of no, I agree with you. I think it's a good idea. Why not? Let's do it.
Where I found this near her campsite.
Okay, obviously that is basically perfect. That looks really good. So, and there's a little bit of a push there at the end.
I found this near her campsite.
Okay. Gotta see something
Campsite.
here. Okay, this is ending too soon. So let's just push this downstream a bit.
Where I found this near her campsite.
Okay. Okay, so now he really stands there for a long time. Let's see what we got here.
She's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
Okay. The question is, what about... this is the answer. The answer is just take a stab here with this and see what happens.
She's near her campsite.
Okay, close. The camera push is probably giving me a bit of a problem. I gotta look at the timing here.
She's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
Okay, so yeah. He says she's here somewhere.
She's here somewhere. I found.
And then right there, he keeps on blabbing.
Here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
Honestly, the very quick camera move kind of looks cool. So
She's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
it is a bit abrupt though. Oh, I see what the problem is. Okay, it would be probably prudent to, let's get rid of this. Excuse me, sorry to cough in everybody's face. Let's restore this. Let's take this out of here. Let's just get rid of any camera moves. No camera moves. And then if we want to add them back in, because they're fighting each other, right?
It's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
Okay, and this is the same situation where this is all deletable. Poof. Okay.
Escape?
She's here somewhere.
Okay, wait a second. What was that? I mean, I guess that's okay. Let's see if I can...
She's here somewhere. I found
okay.
this near her camp.
Okay.
Here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
This is a total crapshoot whether this will work.
Somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
Now, technically that works, even though the voiceover is actually a little bit off.
Here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
However, that could be solved by just doing this.
She's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
And this could be a little later.
She's here somewhere. I found this near her.
And then this could be moved downstream.
Where? I found this near her campsite.
Highness, where? What?
There it is. Darren, good brainstorm, man. Good brainstorm. All right, I'll switch screens. Back to here. This could be probably save all. I'm going to actually step out of here. I'm making good progress here in all likelihood. Probably going to go ahead and take a break before too long.
She was here.
Oops.
Suppose we'll resume the search in the morning.
Morning? Are you trying to help her escape?
She's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
I love it. I think it
Highness,
looks great.
Where? What campsite?
There was a smoldering fire. You couldn't miss it.
And that blasted kid.
I mean, it's possible she came upon the campsite after Luka left.
Luka? Who's Luka?
The orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Fair point, I suppose.
Highness, you needn't worry. Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
Okay, so now I'm going to go look at the script. Okay, so Vespar's hand falls and he looks away irritated. Okay, so now we're actually getting into what we had in the script before. Yep, this shot, just so you guys can see what the hell's going on. Okay, this can be eliminated. Pull this to here. Hit Control-Shift-F to ripple edit it, and let's see what we got.
Highness, you needn't worry. Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
See there, that's what I wanted. Perfect.
Let's regroup at dawn.
Sir.
Managing troops is just slowing us down.
Okay, that picture.
We need a
Tobias
better plan.
Looks stupid. Okay, and I hate the voice there too.
Managing troops is just slowing us down. We need a better plan. Managing troops is just slowing us down. We need a better plan.
So, what's the plan?
Obviously, that's a heavy-handed
We have a-
transitional device that I just used. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit back and just kind of look at the next sequence and kind of get a feel for what we've got. Checking the messages. Nothing's going on in the chat, so cool. So here's what we're doing.
So, what's the plan?
We have a long ways to go.
All right, why is this? I need to disable the resampling on that shot.
What's the plan?
We have a long ways to go. A boat.
Where are we going to find a boat?
More importantly, where are we going to find a river? We just crossed the Little Nab, which meets the Tigris on the other side of Gripson and leads us straight to Nippur. I guess I should have known that.
You're not really very bright, are you?
Monkey!
This shot's probably a little quick. Okay, hang on. I'm going to pause this. Chiziapo had a question. Can you play an image sequence in reverse in Vegas? Yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been doing it repeatedly. I've been taking the image sequences. You cannot drag an image into Vegas and have it be treated as a sequence. You have to go through, and this is an old version of Vegas, so perhaps things have changed, but the project media, you have to go and do an explicit import into your bin, is what most applications call it. Once it's brought in as an image sequence, then yes, you can chop it up. It's treated as a single clip, and you can chop it, reverse it, whatever. Yeah, everything you would think maybe you would want to be able to do, you can do. Cool. All right. Back to here. So as I say, this sequence is a little kind of rough in its execution, but we'll see.
Monkey!
A little music would help this along, actually.
It looks like soldiers are marching toward Gripson, too. You got all that from a few chirps? Impressive. Maybe going through Gripson's not the greatest idea.
That sounds stupid because I just did Tianara's voice as a filler for something to animate against.
Maybe going through...
Unfortunately.
We need supplies, and the woods are too thick.
Okay, I will
We
say,
want-
by the way, that the script diverges from this. Some of this stuff is not
And the woods are too thick.
correct.
If we want any chance to find a boat, we'll have to take our chances.
All right. This is probably not even worth looking at. This is actually the last thing I was working on, a couple of years ago when I
Golick, you are a messy boy.
live streamed, when I quit.
Lord Golick, back so soon.
So yeah, this character, I'm calling him Raja, R-A-J-A, because he's loosely based on Roger the alien from American Dad. It's just a little homage.
Lord
I thought it'd be
Golick,
fun.
back so soon. So,
Blink, blink.
how was the wedding? I'm sure it was just marvelous.
Enough with your incessant prattle. You know it was a debacle.
I love this character.
Well, somebody's got their tights in a tizzy. Besides Lady Carliana. But oh, sure, I get it. Unload on the help.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else finds that as funny as I do, but I like it. So, since it's my show, I can do what I want. All right, checking the moon. Sorry to take you back. I don't know what that means. Sorry to take you back. Oh, can you play an image? I don't know, but the cut from looking down to up is a little much. It's Luka. Yeah, no, actually, Chiziapo, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna not deal with that right now, but I will tell you, I actually agree completely, and it's the one thing in that whole sequence that I noticed. In other words, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm sure of it. Let's see if I'm right. I think what you're referring to is right here. Yeah, right there. Right there.
Sir, it's Luka. When
Yep,
does
right
he
there.
ever not?
That's what you're talking about, right? Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's weak. It's not egregious enough to go ahead and deal with right now, I've decided. I want to kind of move on and keep staying with the flow. But yes, I totally agree with you that is probably not my finest moment.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Yeah, and it'd be pretty easy. This could easily be cut up again so that you get basically this little turn of the head and then back, and it would work. Truth of the matter is, let's see here. We've got okay, so when we're going in, this is a dyslexia moment. I have to literally think in reverse to make this make sense because I'm going back and forth. So we go from here. So just to keep it, okay, so hang on. Just to keep it sensible here, what I'm going to do is go forward frame by frame. There. Okay, so right there I'm just going to cut it. I'm going to split that in half. Okay, so the presumption here is that this bit here doesn't quite work. Golly, I actually like that. Sir. It's Luka. I don't know. That's why I didn't address it before you mentioned it, because it was one of those items where it's like, I don't know if I really don't like it or
He's
not.
acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
The truth of the matter is, the best fix for that shot is probably to remove this line of dialogue entirely.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir,
Watch this. I'll bet you this will play. Okay, so I'm going to go... Hang on, I'm going to take this.
Sir, it's Luka.
Okay,
When
so I'm going to take this, split this. Let's take this, this, move this back this way, and just see what happens.
He was acting suspicious, though.
when does he ever not act suspicious?
No, I don't think so. So that means that this... I guess this edit's in the wrong place. Right there. So this...
Suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Okay, so and actually by stepping over the top of that a little more, it actually feels better.
Suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act
The only thing I don't like is it's like the switch from this to this is abrupt. Do we have... No, it's actually, even in the original, it's that abrupt, so it doesn't do me any good to fiddle with it. Okay, so let's roll with that for now.
Though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act
And the
suspicious?
only thing here, of course, is also that is the timing
Sir, it's Luka. When does he
right there, Luka.
Sir,
This timer.
it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Okay, and then what I'm going to do is just kind of move this forward a little
He
bit.
ever not Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Try that.
Though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Fair point, I suppose.
Highness, you needn't worry.
The thing I actually like the most about this is that it really, at least for me, it's important that these soldiers, they all know Luka. You know, he's a known quantity in the village. He's this orphan kid that everyone seems to like. You know, it's not like he's a thief. You know, he's a beggar, but he's not a thief. And I like the fact that even though these soldiers are working in the service of the king, they kind of have a boots on the ground morality to them. And frankly, it's somewhat absent from policing these days, I suppose. But
Luka.
then again, a
Who's
lot
Luka?
of people in their position
The orphan, Highness.
do
We
have
chased
that,
him off
you know,
that campsite, but there was no
sort of
sign of the
moral
princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act
Yeah, the
suspicious?
only thing I don't like about this is this transition. Right here. From here to here. Do we have something? Well, wait, we've got this. Okay, maybe we can use that. Let's do it this way. Let's take... All we need is one frame. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I need to switch screens. I'm going to load this into the trimmer. And there's one specific frame that I'm looking for. And by the way, while I'm here, I'm going to move this over here too so that these guys are all in one set of tabs, because otherwise I don't have enough room to do what I'm doing. So what I'm looking for, so we don't want that. Right there. Come on. Okay. I'm looking at something. That seems to me to belong right there. I don't know if this will help, folks.
It's Luka. When does he ever not act? It's Luka. When does he ever not?
Okay, so now we've got a bit of software stupidity that we're having to deal with here. So, not sure why. maybe the software is kind of choking. Ah, I see the problem. Okay, and the reason for this is that it's a little ambiguous. When you click here and you split between two frames, it's ambiguous whether you're actually on this frame or this frame. So that's what took place right here. This probably will be okay.
Luka, when does he ever not?
Perfect. Okay, so Chiziapo, I like your idea, and I said I wasn't going to do it, but I'm glad I did because I think it was actually the right choice. So let's have a look.
There was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not?
Why
act
is that
suspicious?
stupid?
Fair.
Okay, so now I have to go through literally frame by frame and figure out why in the hell is it acting all jerky like that. Right there. We actually have a partial oh, that's just creepy. Yes. It's like it's not quantizing exactly to frames. Yeah, that's annoying as heck. That's the type of stuff that takes a bunch of time to dick around with, and it's all just because under the hood the software is really not kind of doing its job properly. Okay, so my question is, why are we getting this double screen thing going on? It is a sequence. Let's disable resampling. Okay, that took care of that. Cool. So that's because being in the trimmer returned it to image sampling by default, which is basically what it is. It's a very, very, very bad simulated slow motion is what it is. So I'm going to take this transition here. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have switched. Take this transition here and move it over one frame. And then I'm going to select this region. I'm going to hit the Q key so it loops. And the situation is either as bad or worse. It's worse. Okay, why? Okay, so here, like I said, guys, I know this is really maddening to watch. This is ultimate dyslexia moment where I have to count and reverse and calculate all at the same time microscopically. That's why I tend to work in a linear way. In other words, just go straight forward as opposed to like going back and forth kind of thing. Okay, I don't know if that's really going to help, but I think it is. So, yeah, this is talking about minutia.
It's Luka. When does he ever not? It's Luka.
Okay, that's it. It's perfect. I got it. Took a while, but we got it. Okay, so
the orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Fair point, I suppose.
Highness, you needn't worry.
okay, there might have been a issue right here. Nope. Looks like the resampling is disabled. So, okay, I'm checking the chat. Is there anything?
Getting another look under the hood.
Oh boy, are we ever! This is like ultimate minutia going on today. So I'm gonna go back here and just flow with it.
You couldn't miss it.
And that blasted kid.
Actually, I'm gonna go back to Darren's edit as well. Let's just kind of watch the whole bit here, and you guys can suffer along with me.
She was here.
Not a sign of her highness.
We have a major problem.
I suppose we'll...
Okay, so I have to stop everything. I have to stop everything. This is very, 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 very bad. Very bad. But kind of funny. Okay, so the problem is that in this shot, in other words, basically all of the work that I've done for the last 2 hours assumes that the campsite where he found the medallion is, back over that way. Yet, reviewing this shot from the beginning, I just realized, because I wanted the bleed over from episode 1, actually, the camp is right where they're standing right now. And that, of course, makes absolutely no sense. So I do see the problem, but we'll roll with it here for a bit. This could be probably solved creatively. Yeah, this could be solved creatively in this way. We have the introduction of the show. We have this, which is the only reason this is in there is because it's the last shot of the previous episode. It's just to remind the people what went on. So then what we need to do is right here, and these little markers can be, these markers can be removed. Okay, so yeah, that seems like a really bad mistake, but it's not. All we need to do is have this bit here, and then insert, let's call this go to black and episode title, because that's not in the show yet. So we're gonna have to put in, we're gonna go to black and do the episode title, and so then what will happen is he says he was here, you hear the ominous music, it goes to black, the title comes on screen, we get a little bumper back out of the black, and then we fade into here, and probably, let me just do it this way, let's move this downstream. I'm gonna hit Control-Shift-F so that everything gets moved downstream. Okay, and then what we're gonna have to do is we need an establishing shot of the woods, that's all. We just need an establishing shot. So I'm going to put a marker here. Go to black and episode title. And I might as well move this downstream a little more so it's just easier to get these markers in and remember what I'm doing. So this needs to be a establishing shot above woods. You could kind of tease it by maybe by zooming into a certain area, right? In the wider shot, like you're zooming in so you can kind of see a direction you're going to, and the smoke from the smoldering fire would be off some distance from wherever you're sort of zooming in. Something like that cues the audience of where we are and sort of forgives the fact that it appears that Vespar is actually at the camp through the rest of the sequence. So that really solves that. That's a pretty easy fix, actually. So then the episode
Not
really
a sign
starts.
of Her Highness. I suppose we'll resume the search in the morning.
Morning? Are you trying to help her escape?
She's here somewhere. I found this near her campsite.
Highness, where? What campsite?
There was a smoldering fire. You couldn't miss it.
And that blasted kid. I mean, it's possible she came upon the campsite after Luka left.
Luka? Who's Luka?
The orphan, Highness. We chased him off that campsite, but there was no sign of the princess.
He was acting suspicious, though.
Sir, it's Luka. When does he ever not act suspicious?
Fair point, I suppose.
Highness, you needn't worry.
I like what I'm seeing.
Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
Let's regroup at
Okay,
dawn.
this shot, I'm going to stop here. This shot really needs to be redone. Tobias's characterization is pretty lame, actually. That's a shot I did ages and eons ago. And least I'm pretty sure. Wonder why in the thumbnail. That's weird. Yeah, right there. In the thumbnail, I see the front view. Oh, there it is. Okay, so there's that. So we're going from this. Yeah, this is actually right there. Okay, so when we talk about going into Joseph Lai anime hell, this is the sort of thing we're talking about where, I mean, that right there is basically Bullwinkle quality characterization. I mean, that's not a good drawing of this guy. I don't know what I was thinking that day. So that's it. I think we're done for today. Thanks for hanging out, guys, and I'm ready for a break. It's been productive. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Chiziapo. Your suggestions were great. Very helpful. And as you guys know, there will be more later.